Open Pike Night, the Strange New Worlds podcast where your calls are the prime directive. I'm your host, John T. Bowles, here tonight with an amazing guest and our fantastic callers. As always, I'm joined by my co-hosts. First, the man who loves Star Trek so much he can reach through a force field to start an episode, Cameron Harrison.
If you're into that sort of thing.
And it seems that Jesse has been sucked out of the OPN transporter buffer and rebuilt on a faraway planet, so he won't be able to join us today. Hopefully he won't start any cults. We are joined, though, by somebody we're so excited. We're here to turn our gaze upon the man who brought life to the giddy Ensign Gamble, as well as the villainous Vezda. The man who should know better than to go rooting through a grave robber's bag in an alien ruin. Please welcome to the Open Pike Night stage, Chris Myers.
Hey guys, thank you for having me. That's a great introduction. I caught all the references.
Very good. Well,
it's great to have you here. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. You're going to hear a lot of praise tonight, I'm sure, but let me start by saying, we were smitten with you from the beginning and just got more and more impressed with every episode.
Yeah, you were a fantastic addition to season 3 and Strange New Worlds, and your character story, as well as what you brought to the M'Benga storyline, it was just a perfect scaffold to build onto the house that they've already started. So, Cam, why don't you get us started off?
Talking about scaffolding, maybe. Am I doing my construction metaphor right
yes,
here?
You are.
Anyway,
yeah.
Okay, good. Let's go back to the beginning. Looking through your bio, I see that you've been involved with theater for a long time, but how did you first get the acting bug? What got you interested in that way back?
Yeah, I have an interesting story in that I started acting as a child, but not as a child actor, which is, a good thing. I think a lot of those stories don't end up so well. So for me, it was just about my mom wanting me to have something to do that wasn't video games, even though I still played a lot of video games. But she kind of rotated me through a couple different sports, which I enjoyed, but never really cared too much about. Some other art forms, which I enjoyed, but never really cared too much about. But finally, I found my way to acting at 11, and I did enjoy it enough to kind of keep wanting to go back. But even still, it took many years for me to want to turn it into something like a profession. It was just, I don't know, a way to express yourself. I think a lot of kids are looking for that outlet, and that was mine. So after school programs was how it got started, I guess. Yeah.
Sure. Any memorable plays from back then?
Yeah, it's the first one was a play called Lear Today, Gone Tomorrow, which was an adaptation of King Lear for kids.
Nice.
Actually, I played King Lear. And the whole play was probably 30 minutes, and it had maybe 10 actual lines of Shakespeare and a lot of silliness. And I will say the guy who taught me acting for the first 10 years of my life was a guy named Alfred Pricer, who's still a mentor of mine. And very quickly though, that seed of you're a kid but you're still going to understand the classics, he kept that up. As we got a little middle school, high school age, we started doing the Greeks and actual Shakespeare plays and scenes and monologues. And so, that was actually quite important, that it wasn't kind of song and dance as a lot of kids. I never had the classic. Most kids I feel do the musical, the big musical at the school play. I never actually did that. I was doing the Greeks at 13. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
And what about your history with Star Trek in general? Were you a Trek watcher growing up?
Yes, although I'm very respectful of what it means to be an actual Trekkie, and I don't want to claim that. I'm a big sci-fi fan. Always have been. The Sci-Fi Channel, which I don't even know if it still exists. Does it?
Or how it's spelled, if it does.
Yeah, I can't remember what it is now, if it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was huge. That was my go-to channel for most of my childhood. And what I appreciated about it is you get those classic, original series replays. Stuff like Battlestar Galactica, the original, and Lost in Space, the original. So it's you're anchored in the kind of classics. And then I suppose in the UPN era, that's where I got into what was then a more modern Trek. But I wouldn't say that I was kind of, programming my parents' DVR to like make sure I got the latest. It was kind of like when it came, But now I am a fan. I mean, in order to prepare for this role, I went and watched a lot of the new Trek. I watched, obviously, the Strange New World seasons before mine. I watched Discovery, Picard. I haven't watched Lower Decks yet, but, I got immersed in... Yeah, I know. It's on my list. It's a good one.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, Cam and I, we're in our 40s. Like, we got to grow up in the TNG and Deep Space Nine era. You're a decent amount younger than us. Like, you were kind of born in a period where Star Trek just wasn't always on TV.
It was just reruns.
So, yeah, that's. Do you have what you would consider a home Trek? Like, is there... I mean, you're on Strange New World, so
yeah, it's got to be Strange New
That's
World
a fair answer.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I genuinely did. Like, I remember watching the show to get ready, and I was cast before the strike hit, which, as we know, delayed season 3 significantly. I remember taking my time watching the season 1 and 2 of the show and being like, wait, I actually love this show. Like, I'm just glad I'm watching it in general because now I'm a fan. So by the time I got to set, I was like so eager to tell everybody, like, I really like your work. Like, I'm not just saying that. Like, I've become a fan, So yeah.
I mean, that's a lot like our journey because we started the podcast before the show started, and we're like, well, we hope we like the show because we put a lot of time into the logos and everything, and thankfully, we love the show and the people who make it.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned the intro. We do have some callers tonight. So first up here is a call from Starship.
Hey, Open Pike Night. It's Starship again. I have a couple things for Chris. First of all, you got to kill a red shirt, and I don't think we lose enough red shirts on this show, so congratulations on that. And secondly, if this hasn't already been asked and answered, I was wondering if you knew how your character's entire arc was going to play out when you got the role, if you were like surprised at each new script. Really loved having you on the show. Bye, guys.
Yeah, I want to ask about the auditioning process, but that's a good place to start. Like, how much did you know?
Yeah, I can kind of weave in the audition process. It's relevant to the answer. And thank you for that question, Starship. I mean, when you audition for this show or any Star Trek show, you get demi-sides, so nothing is like actual material that you'll end up using, and you kind of know that. It's a known thing. I don't know that they don't tell you that, but it's a known thing by now. The name of the show is different, the characters are different, the situations are, so I will say, like, from that side, even auditioning, I didn't quite know what I was getting into, but there is a vibe that is similar in that, you audition with 2 scenes. The first one was kind of Gamble-esque, and the second one was kind of Vezda-esque. And I didn't know the significance of either. Like, there was no character description, there was no backstory, there was no, just the 2 random. Like, one guy was really happy to be on the ship, the other guy was like not. But there was no explanation, so I just like rolled with it and just kind of did one more or less similar to how I would feel like if I was on the Enterprise, and then another one if I was somebody who really didn't want to be on the Enterprise for whatever reason, and my goal was just to show them that I could have range. That was basically all, because I didn't have anything. Normally when I act, the way I was trained is you do kind of text analysis. You kind of really read the script, not just for your lines, but for the whole story, and understand what you're meant to fill in the story. And it's about your character and backstory and all those kind of details, but it's also bigger than that. And I had none of it, so I just had to like kind of make a choice. By the time I got on set, it was better, but not entirely transparent. I mean, no, the short answer is no, I did not know where things were going until we got there. Nobody knew. I mean, maybe like Rebecca and Ensign knew, but I mean, most of the actors similarly are kind of like pick any episode you want, like the Gorn Ortega's episode. Like, I'm pretty sure like she got the script. I might be making this memory up, so sorry, if I am, but I'm pretty sure, like, I remember, because what happens is you get this script sometimes when you're on set shooting the episode before or whatever. And they're just like, that's when they're released to the actors. And I remember we were like in the green room and she just kind of got it and was like, whoa. And she just kind of like saw like, I'm gonna have to do a lot of work. I'm gonna have to get ready for this. So you're learning these things in real time. That said, I'm a nosy actor. So I was, as much as possible, trying, like, when I did get a script, I was trying to ask questions from the writers to kind of fill in gaps and get started on work. And yeah.
Did they tell you anything? They had to have told you were going to be the villain for the season.
No.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And so you didn't know you were going to have to do like such a big turn until you got the script for.
I mean, again, I had an idea because of the audition material. So I wasn't like surprised in that way, but genuinely nobody sat me down at any point until the script was in my hand to tell me I was going to be the villain. So
what about episode 5? You do that, you die. Do they tell you you're coming back for the last episode?
Not really, no.
Oh, wow.
That's a funny story in that it was hinted at by a certain executive producer. But I left the set and went back from Toronto to New York more or less under the understanding that my contract was over and my work on Star Trek was done.
Wow.
Yeah. Wonder if that had anything to do with the strike and them kind of rewriting a bit in the...
Maybe. I mean, I think probably there was a lot of factors. And, at the end of the day, I mean, I was very thrilled to learn that I would, in fact, be coming back.
I mean, that's got to be an exciting journey, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, we want you back, but I died. Yeah, we still want you back. We got to figure it out.
Well, when I left, to be fair, what people were saying is, actors, but also just crew, the people who work on these shows on the crew level, they're often, like a lot of people who are doing Strange New Worlds might have been doing Starfleet Academy. It's kind of, they see more Trek than the actors do, frankly, because, the people who are working on Disco might, So they were like, well, it's Trek. Dying doesn't necessarily mean dying. And there could be mirrored universes. There could be all kinds of, ways in which you come back. So I was just like, yeah, I left with like, I'm leaving. Nobody's told me I'm coming back, but it is Star Trek. So there's always that seed in my head.
I want Mirror Gamble now.
Yes. All right. Our next caller here is our good friend Platty.
Night and Chris, this is Platty M3 calling in, and instead of my normal hit shits and giggles, I want to ask Chris to do it for me. Now, Mr. Myers, I usually share my hit shits and giggles about each episode the Open Pike Night crew covers, and you were definitely on my hits list this past season often. Though, can you share a little bit about your time filming your episodes? What were the standout hits for you? The shits, be honest, was it that eye makeup? And what got you giggling on set? Glad the show took a gamble on you, and can't wait to hear your responses. Platty M3, signing off.
Good question. I mean, the hits, while shooting, let's see. I mean, a show is a lot of things. It's a piece of art, it's a piece of storytelling, right? It's an immersive universe with lore, and Star Trek comes through on all those levels. But it's also a workplace, and I have to say, like, as a workplace, the thing that kept filling up my cup was that everybody was so down to earth, genuinely approachable and welcoming. I was really nervous that with this kind of big IP, and clearly, like I said, everybody's doing such good work. Clearly, you're worried about stepping in that. Are people gonna be hard on me? Are they gonna make me prove myself? And the very first scene that I shot was actually, and this isn't always the case, it was Gamble's very first scene in episode 2, with Rebecca and Mbenga, and I guess there was just the three of us. So I was like, they're a big deal to me as actors, as characters, and they were just so awesome to work with in that first moment. And I remember when I finished that scene, I guess maybe they, like, somebody, they applauded, Chris's first scene, and Rebecca was like, "That was your first scene? Oh wow, that's so good! Like, you're doing great." And I was like, "Whoa, what a relief!" And from that moment on, I was able to just breathe. And that really set the tone. That was day one of work, and it just was awesome. And I have to say, with no discredit to like other people, but like most actors will tell you that's not normal. Unfortunately, you don't actually often have that kind of experience on a show, let alone a big show. And Star Trek is a big show, so that was definitely the hits. The shits, the eye makeup wasn't as bad as you think. If anything, it was waking up, and I'm just a big baby. I mean, you have to wake up at a crazy hour to do film work, and often you wake up and then you're still sitting around in your trailer for an hour or two before you do anything anyway, and you're like, why did I wake up this early? So I'm just a big baby. I'm grateful. I love my job. I mean, I would never trade it. I don't want to sound ungrateful, but I'm not going to pretend like I love, because then you get home and it's just like the body can't go to sleep at 8 p.m. Like you're just like laying there wide awake, wishing you can go to sleep. And right when you feel like it happens, your alarm goes off. I mean, it's just like, we got to figure out how to have comfortable late wake-ups in the film industry. Giggles? Yeah, I mean, me and Ethan got along really well. Offset. We worked out a bunch at the gym that was near where we lived in downtown Toronto. We almost made it to like a LAN center when I discovered that he, like me, was a former Counter-Strike player. Nice. Killian almost got in on that, I heard. He played Rainbow Six, and we thought close enough. We never made that happen, but, just being able to, again, I know they had a big thing. They liked, like, MMA and stuff. Just when I was young, like, fresh out of school, you work with people on big shows. I remember one of the first people I shot scenes with were, like, Christine Baranski or something like that. You respect them, but you have no expectation that you're going to, like, get along. It's quite a different experience to be, like, with the boys. Like, you're shooting Star Trek, but then, like, between takes, you're just, like, with the boys, laughing about normal shit. Like, that was actually awesome, and I didn't expect that, and, yeah.
That's fantastic.
With the eye prosthetics, I mean, how much, like, could you see it all? Was that middle just CGI? Or I
wonder if I have a photo. I mean, they put a lot of extensive makeup around the orbital bone and whatnot, but the rest of my eye, like the lid and whatever, was just black makeup, and that part was all CGI'd.
Did you have to keep your eyes closed, or?
That's the thing. Yeah, no, I thought I was gonna have to. But they actually encouraged me to keep them open because I think with the eyeball it was a little easier to track. Yeah, here's like a photo from my phone. I don't know if this is going to show.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. But like that's basically what it looked like, and I was able to. If anything, I forgot that I looked like that, and then I would like get lunch, and people would look at me crazy, and I'd be like, "Oh, right, yeah."
So they say acting is in the eyes, but if you're not, I mean, you're able to look through them, but you can't rely on them to convey what you're emoting. Did you kind of have to adapt your performance?
Yeah, great question, and something that actually really occurred to me specifically for episode 10, because there was actually, there's stuff you can kind of do, right? You know what I mean? With other things, but with the mask and like the big, that actually was quite an interesting challenge. And I mean, in a good way. I mean, challenges are what you want as an artist. But yeah, even like, breathing in a way where you can see the breath rising. I don't actually do that by default. That's like a choice. Or, the way that the head would move, which also felt, more mammalian, less human, more just broadly animalistic. You just find other ways. But it definitely was like a moment where I was like, oh, I don't have the go-to tool. But again, like, I really want to stress, like, I think most of the actors we like look forward to such challenges. Because if you always got to rely on your same kind of bag of tricks, which some actors do.
Quite profitably. Yeah.
You know what I mean? We know them because we're like, and often they're very charming and watchable, but we're just like, oh, that's not a character. That's just like X actor in a suit, X actor in a, you know, cop uniform, X actor, and it's just them in a different wardrobe, but it's very much just that actor. Mm-hmm. I personally want to be challenged. I personally want to have to find new ways to convey a story through my instrument, which is actually my entire being, my body, my thoughts, my feelings, tempo, rhythm. So I was like, you know, the director Andy of episode 5 and me were talking for, you know, as we were kind of getting in sync about what she wanted from kind of Vezda, Gamble, and what I was kind of coming up with. And I was very like aware that I was going back to like drama school, like physical acting stuff in terms of like stuff that you really don't get to use much on camera. Like you watch a lot of film acting and it's very, you know, hyper naturalistic, often even mumbly. Like I call it underacting because we're aware when people are overacting. But sometimes you see certain actors, and I love some of them again, but sometimes I'm like, people don't talk like people don't like. You watch like a close up of like Michael Shannon, and respect is due. Like, but because I think he's a great actor. But like I saw there's a clip from some trailer of some movie. He was like a diner, you know, talking, and it's like he's like, and you know I'm gonna take you down and make it happen. I was like, whoa! I was like, his lips aren't moving. That's crazy. You know, but I'm like, in real life, people don't talk like that. Like, you know, you'd be like, what? You'd be like, talk up. Like, you know what I mean? But it works on camera because, you know, there's the mic and there's the mood music and the close up and the filter. Everything's yellow. And you're like, whoa, this is intense. But I don't know. For me personally, like, there's a time and place for that. If I always had to do that, it would drive me crazy. Like, I want to be using my instruments. So what was asked of me in this role was actually really exciting, challenges and all.
That's good. That's cool. Your character was, like we said, important for the season, but also very important for the character of Mbenga. Did you and Babs workshop that at all as the scripts came out? Did you guys get some one-on-one time to plan how your interactions were going to go and to discuss that relationship?
Surprisingly, not much.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, we spent time talking between takes, him and I. And I think if anything, and you know, me asking a lot of questions about, he has a kind of incredible career, and the range of work he's been able to do, and so I'm asking him a lot of questions, you know, similar to how Gamble would be asking Mbenga, but I'm asking them of Babs, and I think if anything, that's where we found our rhythm. You know, who are we to each other? In terms of mentor-mentee. And if anything, you know, it was like after, kind of toward the end of shooting, where we ended up like going out to dinner and, you know, kind of, but in terms of sitting down and really beating out, you know, the relationship between Gamble and Mbenga, surprisingly little. Like we talked about it, but just not a lot, yeah.
Okay.
Let's jump to Abby's question.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned some of the physicality.
Yep. And she's got a great question about that. Here we go.
Hey, Open Pike and Chris. Abby Summer from the First Flight podcast. First of all, Chris, I'm so glad you're a part of Trek. You have a wonderful talent, and I hope that you get to share it with the world for many, many years to come. Okay, here's my question. You had a very physical performance both before you were possessed by the Vezda and after you were possessed by the Vezda. So I would like you to talk a little bit about how you thought about that physicality and how you used it to amplify your performance, especially when you didn't necessarily have eyes to show your emotion and expression with. Also, can you talk a little bit about the mask and the Vezda costume that you had when you were on Skygowan? Because I'm a costume nerd at heart, and those were gorgeous. Hope this finds all of you well. Talk soon.
Cool. Thank you, Abby, for the kind words and for the question. I'll start with the costume first. I mean, all the costumes are amazing. I think that the costume designer on Strange New Worlds is one of the best in the game, one of the best in the industry. I mean, everybody was always so excited to be wearing whatever they were wearing. And of course, as we know, Strange New Worlds gives new worlds, new opportunities to you're always kind of pivoting into a new direction, whether it's your acting or design, the set building. Everybody brings it, but man, those costumes are awesome. You know, even though it looked really intimidating, because of the materials, it was actually quite light. It's easy to move in. If anything, I remember the staff being pretty heavy because it would have looked silly if that was like just foam and it was kind of easily
too easy to carry.
Yeah, exactly. I do remember because of the eye sockets though, and then the staff, and then I had like, I don't even remember, I first kind of enter on some steps. Mm-hmm. I'm so glad they cut out the walk down, because in my memory that was really difficult. I couldn't see below me. I couldn't see the steps unless I fully looked down, which, come on, big badass Vezda's not gonna look down when he's walking. He's gonna. So I'm like looking up, but I'm like trusting each step. Like, I hope I do not tumble. I never tumbled, but I was always wondered like how badass I look. So probably not very. That's why they cut most of that. Which is, thank you, editors. The first question was about the physical performance. Yeah, I mean, this is related to what I was just saying, which is acting is not about just words, because that's not, we don't communicate. We think we communicate, only through language, spoken, written language, but actually we're communicating just by how we are sitting and how our faces look. People say resting bitch face. Well, the reason why that's a thing is because people are saying, despite what you are meaning to communicate, you're communicating to me that you're annoyed right now just by virtue of how your face rests. So we have access to so much potential storytelling and communication if we dare to look outside of just the lines we're given. And that's something that I'm always kind of trying to approximate. I think a show like Star Trek, and of course when you play a different kind of creature, gives you more opportunities to really explore that because you're not constrained. But even in terms of like when you're a human, you're kind of like, I remember back in high school, there was a physical acting class where we spent 30 minutes, all of us walking in a circle in a big classroom. And the teacher would call out things like, you have a limp on your left leg, and everybody would walk in a circle and then say, you have a limp on your right leg, and then be like, you walk with your weight over, bent over your front of gravity in front of you, with your front of gravity behind you. You and it would just call out all these different things of like feeling what it is, what it means to like be in the world where it's normal for you to have like a completely different adjustment in your body. And I've never forgotten that, you know what I mean? And it really unlocks like the capacity that you had, that like, and then if you watch people like on the street, you realize, people don't walk in the same way. Everybody's got their own little quirks that they carry. So I'm always kind of thinking, what can I bring to my characters in that way?
Well, speaking of physicality, you were involved in a few altercations, your characters, fight scenes and stunt work. Let's start with when Spock punches you. I don't know, was that you at all, or was that all stunt person?
So, I'm happy to talk about the fights because that was another really cool aspect. I've done stage combat in theater, but it's significantly different in film and TV. I did most of the stunts. However, I had my stunt doubles. I had 3 of them throughout the series.
Oh, wow.
I did everything. Well, I did most things, like 95% of things, and then my double did everything, and then we cut them together. So if you look, carefully and you pause, most of the time when my face is, seen, it's me. There's like 1 or 2 where it's not. If you look carefully, you can point it out. And then if there's ones where my face is not seen, which is probably because it's something significantly more difficult, it's my double. But like certain moves, like the one that you're talking about, where he was in like a harness and just like yoinked back, they did not give that to me because they didn't want me to get seriously injured. And, that's fair. I'm glad.
I was watching yours and Batel's fight scene with Melanie Scrofano, and it looked like, it was a lot of you two. How's that working with her during that whole choreography? We just talked to her recently. She was at our last interview.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. I mean, she's a really good sport. You definitely have those awkward moments where you're meant to like shake or throw, and you're like, I don't want to throw a woman, period. And she'll be like, just fucking throw me, I don't care. And you're like, all right. But it can be weird fighting anybody but especially when there's like a gender thing, you know, you don't want to kind of, I'm aware, like I work out, I don't want to like, you know, just throw people around. But the team, the kind of fight director and just a really awesome thorough team that they had, we felt super safe. So, you know, you just do it a bunch. You had a number of days of rehearsal, and then we do it a bunch in the space. It never felt like we were rushed. You know, there was a really cool fight that was cut from episode 10, which we rehearsed and shot, but for whatever reason didn't make. I mean, episode 10 there's a lot going on, and I think a number of things were cut for time more than anything else. But there was some pretty cool stuff in there.
That makes sense. Not everybody, especially guests, get a opening voiceover. How was that to do for a Star Trek episode?
I remember telling my partner, I was like, I get to do the whole, you know, log moment, which is so iconic. Funny thing about that is, I mean, just side note, like, I think I did that in one take. We were shooting whatever we were shooting, some scene in like Med Bay, and we were kind of like about to wrap and move on for the day, and I was about to go home, and they're like, "Can we just record that?" And I just like did it in one take, and they're like, "Great."
Wow.
And that was it. But for me, I mean, that is like the coolest moment to this day. Actually, I think I love my work in like the actual scenes, but knowing that I can put on that episode and it starts and it's just me being excited, because that's so much of what it actually is for me as Chris. It's just like, I'm on the Enterprise. Wow, I never imagined I'd get here. Like, that's maybe why it was one take, because it was just completely accurate to my life.
Did you have any Trek fans in your life kind of come out of the woodwork when you got cast?
Yeah, I mean, well, not cast, because that was the other thing. From
Sure.
cast to the episode coming out was like, I don't know, 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
But I mean, as you know, the episodes are coming out, I definitely, you know, had people coming out, and you know, people are still just coming around to the show.
Mm-hmm.
But now I've got friends, people I've known for a while. They want to come to like Long Island Trek and come to the conventions and like hang out there. So that's gonna be pretty exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good convention. You'll have fun there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other iconic things you got to do, like you said, like your first scene, you were bantering with Una, giving her shit. You got punched by Spock. You got shot by Carol Kane. I mean, you wound up kind of working with everybody on the Enterprise in one scene or another. Is there anything you feel like you wish Gamble could have done? Any Star Trek bucket list items you wish you could have crossed off?
That's an interesting question. I mean, yeah. I guess the only thing is I wish I made it to the bridge.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, I got to go to the bridge just to check it out, and I remember I did a makeup test because the director was there, and they needed to see something. So I got to sit, in the chair and everything. But it would have been cool to have a seat on the bridge for sure.
Can relate. We went on a set tour, and it was all amazing, but the bridge was under construction, so we didn't get to sit.
It was a little sad. But man, incredible sets otherwise.
Yeah.
Med Bay, holy cow, that was a massive set.
Maybe one more thing is, this probably wouldn't happen, but like flying a shuttle. So far in like any acting, I've never driven a car or anything like that. But like, I would love to like fly a shuttle, or I mean, I'm obviously it wouldn't be more than a shuttle. It wouldn't even. I don't think he'd probably be, allowed to even fly a shuttle. But like flying any kind of spaceship is a career goal for sure.
For sure, yeah.
That's cool.
I did get to sit in the shuttle, and that was pretty cool, because like you can move the little handlebar thing and everything. It feels legit.
What was it like getting to act in front of a crowd of worshiping aliens?
Once you made it down the stairs.
Yeah. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, there's a lot of extras in that scene. Obviously, more VFX, but it was a big crowd of people. It brought me back to I did this show on Netflix called She's Gotta Have It, and I was a Jamaican dance hall star, and it was Spike Lee's show. They actually rented out a nightclub in Brooklyn and had like 100 people like partying, and I had to like do a whole song to them. It felt very much like that. It's sometimes a little unnerving when you have so many people looking at you, But no, it was really fun, very immersive in that way.
Yeah, well, speaking of immersive, you also worked on the volume for the big climactic sequence. Was that your first time working on something like that?
Yeah, I love that thing. Some people have different opinions about it, because it can feel like it's sometimes maybe too immersive, where you kind of lose track of reality, It's just like a big dark room, and you're just like, where am I after a certain period of time? But I really like it. I mean, it's got a strong vibe element to it. And they do a good job of kind of bringing in practical elements, or like, like a wind machine, just stuff that actually kind of gives it that environment. But look, we shot on that. We shot on built sets. We shot it, on location. And certainly like the exterior shot, before we go inside, was like a random rock quarry in Toronto somewhere, and they just kind of built that doorway element there, and we would kind of just walk into it and then cut, and then we picked up everything interior whatever next week at the AR wall.
That's fun. Were you told or described at all what your the Vezda's demise would look like once the VFX were done with it? Like, do you get any descriptions? They show you those?
Yeah, we talked about it. I mean, because I asked about it. That's one of those things where you kind of have to understand, like, considering we're not seeing any of this, what is happening. So It was all described to me, and, we just tried to imagine it as best we could. So.
I mean, when you finally saw it, were you like, oh yeah, that's what I was picturing was happening to me, or?
Yeah. I will say it lined up pretty clearly.
Good.
Yeah.
We did have one write-in, Charlotte from the UK. Loved your standout portrayal of Ensign Gamble. Are you planning to continue to be a part of the Trek universe by joining the convention circuit? And if so, you're excited to get out and meet the fans?
Absolutely. Yeah. Currently I'm slated for Long Island Trek, and then I don't know if it's been announced, but I'll announce it. Vegas as well. And yeah, I mean, anybody who kind of wants to invite me to stuff, I'll always consider it. I am kind of for the foreseeable future working on a Broadway show right now, which like contractually locks down my time pretty stringently. But I'm always going to try to, like, if I can take a personal day or whatever, line it up. I'm happy to try to make stuff work, because it's, I don't know, I read the stories about, other shows and how people react to them, but in my experience, the, Strange New Worlds fan base has been really, really warm, and I think, it's, for me, and I think many people agree, like, you kind of have a responsibility to kind of, like, on some level acknowledge the fan base, because it's just such a recurring theme that it's through the power of the fans that the show even has endured in the way that it has. So, you don't want to get too ahead of yourself, but I think making that time is important to me anyway.
It's important to the fans too.
Yeah.
I noticed you've got a guitar behind you. Do you think Gamble plays an instrument?
I hadn't considered that, but I could see him being really, really good at an instrument. I went to art school, theater school, but it was Juilliard. It had, music and dance, but I'm always surprised when I meet somebody who's like a lawyer or a doctor, and but they're just insanely good at an instrument. It's just like their parents or whatever were like, you can't risk that, so you have to get a real job. And they're just sitting on, and I can see Gamble being that kind of person. You know what I mean? Like, he's got this talent just sitting in his back pocket. But I don't know if it's a guitar. I don't know. You guys tell me. Is there some kind of more Star Trek appropriate instrument?
Well, we know Melissa Navia thinks Eric Ortegas plays the banjo, so maybe something he can jam with her with. I don't know.
Yeah, either a stringed instrument or some kind of woodwind, something like that. Definitely seems like he would have been in the Starfleet Academy band. Have we seen a Starfleet Academy band yet? There's got to be one. There's got to be band kids there.
Yeah.
That's definitely an episode idea that is going to get yoinked.
Did you come up with any headcanon for Gamble that never made it on the screen?
No. I wish, like, everybody wishes, frankly, there was more episodes, more time, you know what I mean? Because I think there's so much more, he could have done. I think one of my favorite moments is when he walks in on Spock and Chapel and the lift, and kind of realize, and it's like stuff like that, or sitting at the bar, kind of. I would like to see him settling into actually understanding who these people are and kind of getting into the rhythm so he can get a little closer with them. That's the kind of stuff that I was curious about, because he gets FaceTime with people, but it is good that he gets to interact with all kinds of different people in the crew. But that would have been cool to see.
Yeah, my favorites are always the fresh young ensigns who are as excited to be on the Enterprise as the audience is to be there, right? Like, because then they become our audience avatars. I'm thinking like Geordi from the first couple of seasons of TNG was kind of that, and always my favorite characters. And yeah, would have loved to have seen more of Gamble. And I just I remember that watching his demise it worked. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was not something I don't think any of us expected. Even with we should have known. Opening monologue. Like, obviously, this guy. Like, how many brand new characters get that? Like, oh yeah, because he dies. Dang it! But it was sad to see you go, for sure.
But in that episode, Through the Lens of Time, it is a little up in the air whether Gamble is still in there or not, or whether it's all the Vezda, or whether Gamble is coming through. And the characters that you debate it. I think by the end, maybe we figured out by the last episode. But when you were performing it, did you have an idea of whether that was Gamble or all Vezda?
Yes, I did. I mean, yeah, I did. Like I said, I'm also nosy, so I talked to Davey Perez, who kind of had a lot of lore to drop that was
he'll do that
in the script. So but I also think it's kind of useful to keep that door open in terms of how people want to interpret it, because I also know that I don't know, but I this was the first appearance of the Vezda. Maybe it won't be the last, I don't know. So it's kind of like leaving it as an open question, I think, is good for now.
Nice.
Yeah, that's very close to how Davey answered it as well.
Yeah, exactly. We do have one more call. Here's our good friend Melanie.
Hi guys, and hi Chris. Here's Melanie from Germany. I hope you're all okay. So Chris, welcome to Open Pike Night. How does it feel to be part of Star Trek? Did it change anything for you? I mean, you've been introduced to us in an amazing fashion, and then you've been taken away from us in an even awesome fashion. I mean, I should have known something would happen with Dana, but I didn't. I thought it was so nice that Joseph has a new well kid, but then, gosh, what happened to him? It was mean? The eyes? I mean, come on. But Chris, you played him so well, and the way you play him being possessed, wow, just amazing. Well done. So, some questions for you. What are you doing now? Are you working on something? Anything you can share? And what is the thing you really wish to do? What do you do in your free time? What are your hobbies? Live long and prosper, and I hope your wishes will come true. See you in Vegas in August. I hope they let me in. Take care, Melanie.
Thanks, Melanie. I hope they let you in too. Why would they let you in except for... Well, we'll come back to that. Maybe there's a longer story. All I know is what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Okay, so a number of questions there. I know one of them was like, how has this changed things for you? I mean, one of the more straight up answers, as you guys noted, I do a lot of theater. I love the theater. I'm doing a play right now, which I'll come back to in a second. But I would like to do more TV, and I've done TV. I've done, a number of indie films. I've done a lot of guest stars, maybe 1 or 2 episodes. But to have a nice arc that I could really develop and, again, show that range and show kind of that I can do more than one thing, even within a given character, that was very new for me. And I think it's changed, hopefully, how other people see my work, but also even how I see my own work and my own capabilities on camera. So it's given me a boost of confidence in that way. That said, like I said, I kind of write, when Strange New Worlds came out, I was doing a play called Purpose on Broadway here. Then that closed, and 6 weeks later, I came into a show called Buena Vista Social Club, which is a musical based on the album of the same name. And these are contracts where you're locked in for anywhere from 9 to 12 months in this case. So I'm here now, and I'm happy to be in these plays. It is a question of like when my contract does end. I'd love to come back to TV. Frankly, I told my agents this. Like, I really like. There's something really fun about working on sci-fi, and granted, like I said, I am a sci-fi fan, but like, there's something when your job, the stories you're telling are like inherently, about another world or another time. It's like it's really, I don't know. There's an excitement that permeates the atmosphere everywhere. And maybe that's also part of it in terms of like people also aren't taking themselves too seriously when that's the case too. You're like there's an air of like effervescent kind of make believe that everybody's like, okay, let's just be grateful. So I definitely want to do more of that. I explicitly asked one of the execs. I was like, I know there's a precedent for actors coming back with a bunch of prosthetics and playing a completely different character. So I was like, I'm open to that, whether it's in Strange New Worlds or some other Star Trek show. So that would be cool to do. But yeah, I'm in Buena Vista Social Club. Come see it if you're in New York. It's a great show. And you can say hi at the stage door after. In my free time, I do a lot of reading. Right now, I'm reading like a few books right now. The one that's just like right in front of me, I'm rereading, which is Italo Calvino's If on a Winter's Night, a Traveler. One of my favorite books. And I teach sometimes. I teach anything from acting to kind of more kind of organizing for artists, cultural work. I'm getting a cat soon with my partner. After being a cat guy through like cat videos for many years, I'm finally getting one.
You're gonna make your own cat videos?
Well, that's the question. So like I don't know, cause I think like I'm gonna decide how much I want, cause I know if I want to crush it, like I can make a top cat account, but I might want to just keep this, for me. So
right,
we'll see.
Right. Don't want to turn your cat into a child star, cat star situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, gym, working out, living my life with my partner, now fiance, and
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it.
What are some of the other big sci-fi shows you liked watching?
Battlestar Galactica is a kind of classic. I probably watched it through 5 times, maybe at least 3 or 4 all the way through, and like 5 most of the way through. Station 11, I don't know if you...
I've heard that's fantastic, yeah.
It's a graphic novel, which I haven't read, but they turned it into one season on HBO. It's kind of like indie sci-fi. I mean, it's unfortunate. It came out during the pandemic. It's about a pandemic that wipes out like 90% of humanity. But it's like now sci-fi kind of. But I love that show. It's really incredible. Obviously, The Expanse is a really good one. Went in all kinds of interesting directions. Andor, I think, is kind of like... I don't want to compare it in this way, but I would say really, really good. I would say I think it's the most important sci-fi show in recent memory. Mm-hmm. Because Andor could just be like good sci-fi, good Star Wars, but actually what it's dealing with, I think, is extremely like relevant to the current moment in terms of like, and I think that that's what I think George Lucas tried to get at when he wrote Star Wars. He was like thinking of like the Vietnam War and stuff like that, and I feel like we've kind of lost our way with like grounding sci-fi and like those kind of really important current issues, and I mean really important, like not just like love and but I mean like war, like like the wars that are happening, and so it's like, what would it mean to make a sci-fi show that's like dealing with the crises of the day? I think Andor leans into that and succeeds, and that makes it really important. So I don't know.
Yeah, good list.
Fantastic list. Yeah. Well, Open Pike Night is an Open Mic Night themed podcast. So, do you have a joke for us today?
All right. I didn't come up with this. No and problem. I hope it hasn't been used before, given it's a Star Trek joke. stop me if it has. How many Vulcans does it take to screw in a light bulb?
I don't think we have had this one.
No. How many?
2, 1 to change the light bulb, and a second to ask what's so funny.
That's a good one.
I like that.
I haven't heard that one. Just submitted enough to tickle my funny bone.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you
Fantastic
so
work.
much, Chris.
Yeah.
And we look forward to seeing you at some conventions. We might run into you at Las Vegas.
Thank you guys, and thanks to all the callers. It's been a pleasure.